Welcome to another episode of ResearchPod. Today we're looking at how to teach a smaller AI model to think like a bigger, more capable one.
We're discussing a technique called Trust Region Behavior Blending, or TRB. The core puzzle it tries to solve is that while the standard approach to this kind of teaching works well in theory, it tends to fall apart in the very early stages of training.
So this is about stopping the training from becoming chaotic when the student model is still essentially guessing?
Exactly. When a student model is young, it produces nonsense. If we force it to keep learning from that nonsense, training stalls. This research suggests that by gently steering the student toward more sensible paths early on, you end up with a much better result at the end.
Let me make sure I'm following. You're talking about a process called on-policy distillation. Can you break that down?
Sure. Think of it like this. You have a small, inexperienced student model and a large, capable teacher model. On-policy distillation means the student generates its own text, its own attempt at an answer, and then we compare that attempt to what the teacher would have said. The student learns by closing that gap. The word on policy just means the student is practicing with its own work, not with pre-written examples.
So the student is learning from its own mistakes, with the teacher pointing out where it went wrong.
Right. But here's the problem. Early on, the student's output is so poor that the teacher's feedback becomes useless. It's like a student trying to solve a maths problem who doesn't even know how to write the numbers yet. If the teacher just marks that paper, it's not helpful. The work is just scribbles.
So how does TRB fix that?
TRB introduces what the authors call a trust region. Instead of letting the student wander into total nonsense, they set a boundary around the student's current abilities. The student can explore, but only within a reasonable distance of what it already knows. At the same time, those explorations are nudged toward the teacher's logic. You get both stability and guidance.
How do they actually measure that reasonable distance? That seems like a difficult line to draw.
They use a mathematical tool called KL divergence. Without getting into the maths, think of it as a way of measuring how different two sets of choices are from each other. If the student's choices start looking very different from its own previous behavior, the KL divergence goes up. By putting a cap on that number, they create a fence. The student can't stray too far from its own current understanding.
And the paper mentions something called annealing. Does that mean the training wheels eventually come off?
That's the core strategy. They start with a strict budget for how much the teacher can influence the student. As the student improves, they gradually reduce that influence. That's the annealing, until the student is practicing entirely on its own. It's not about changing the goal. It's about making the path to that goal much smoother.
But how do they find that balance point in the first place? How do they know exactly how much teacher influence to allow at each step?
They use a method called binary search. Imagine you're trying to find the exact tension on a guitar string. Tight enough to hold a note, but not so tight it snaps. You don't just guess, you try the midpoint. Check if it's too tight or too loose, then move to the midpoint of the remaining range, and repeat. That's binary search. They apply the same logic to find the highest possible teacher influence that still keeps the student within its fence.
So it's a live calculation that shifts as the student grows, not a fixed setting someone chose in advance.
Correct. And that's what makes it more than just a blunt tool. The adjustment is precise and responsive. It does require more computing power during that early warm-up phase, but once the student finds its footing, the system switches back to standard, faster processing. The extra cost is front-loaded and temporary.
That seems like a reasonable trade-off. You spend a little more effort early on to avoid the model building bad habits it can never shake.
That's exactly the logic. And it connects to a deeper problem the authors call exposure bias. During training, a model is usually fed perfect, well-formed examples, but the moment it has to generate its own text, it makes a small error. Because it has never been trained on its own imperfect output, that one error compounds. Each mistake makes the next one more likely. The model has only ever seen the ideal path, so it doesn't know how to recover when it steps off it.
So the model is a bit like a tightrope walker who has only ever practiced on the ground. The moment they're actually up on the rope and wobble, they have no experience to draw on.
That's a useful way to put it. TRB forces the model to practice on the actual rope, its own generated text, but with a safety harness. The specific mathematical tool they use for this is called reverse KL divergence. The reverse part is a technical distinction, but what it means in practice is that the penalty falls hardest when the student produces something the teacher would consider genuinely unlikely or wrong. It doesn't punish every small deviation. It focuses the student's attention on avoiding the most serious errors.
So it's not about copying the teacher exactly. It's about learning which parts of the teacher's logic are actually within reach for the student right now.
Exactly. The fence isn't there to limit the student permanently. It's there to make sure the student's practice is useful practice. Once the warm-up period ends and the student has built a solid foundation, the fence comes down and the model continues learning on its own terms.
It's a thoughtful solution to what is, in some ways, a very human-like problem. We all learn better when early practice is structured and forgiving, rather than throwing us in at the deep end before we're ready.
The authors are careful to note that their findings come specifically from math's reasoning tasks, so it's worth keeping that scope in mind. But within that domain, the approach provides a clear, stable path for training smaller models to a higher level of performance than standard methods allow. The next step for the field will likely be making this kind of adjustment even more responsive to a model's real-time progress.
Thanks for listening to ResearchPod.